All right, everyone, make sure those backpacks are tight. Tuck in any straps. We don't want anything to be able to grab you while we're out there. We will wait for Lou's signal, 2 clicks on the walkie, don't forget, and then we will head out quickly and quietly. We just have to stick together. So just stay close, everyone. Stay close.
Our scene opens on the streets of Chicago, blood-stained and littered with shattered glass and debris from the gas station's explosion yesterday morning. Lou, make a stealth roll.
I rolled a 13.
All right.
Under 56.
Okay. So, moving damn near silently, there's an occasional ping of like a little shard of glass. You know how a windshield basically like disintegrates into the tiniest little shards? There's a little, like, occasionally you're stepping on those. They're really hard to avoid, but they're not very loud. And you make it up to the sewer grate that you're eyeing from one of the windows. You probably would have brought like a crowbar or something, or what was your melee weapon?
Okay. My melee weapon was originally the scimitar, but for the purposes of opening this sewer grate, probably would have grabbed a pry bar.
Okay, so you probably still have the scimitar with you, though. Like,
I wouldn't have wanted to give it up.
So, as you're approaching the sewer grate, how about you just describe your appearance to us? Your new appearance in terms of like your gear and maybe how you're faring after this many hours into the outbreak.
Oh man. I went rummaging in some of the apartments. I found an awesome black leather jacket that is in pretty good shape. Swapped that out for my hoodie. And or maybe probably left my hoodie on under it because extra padding. I took one of the cabinet doors off and I've like fashioned a strap so that I have like kitchen cabinet door shield around one arm, and leaving my hands free in case there are any lock picking or delicate things that need to be done. I'm tired. And there's been a lot of loss, and Lou's had a lot of loss in their life. So watching this much in the span of a day is like the roller coaster of like slowly like bonding very quickly and then losing people, and bonding very quickly and then losing people. They're not doing so hot, but at this point, they're relating a lot to like Darren's vibe on the roof, and are just going, you know what, let's just do this, and have gone into some kind of detached, like, protector mode of, well, if I can do the one thing I'm good at and get everybody else there, it doesn't matter. We'll make it and it'll be fine.
And with that, you use the pry bar to kind of like, I mean, it's heavy, it's hard to do, but you've done it before, correct?
Oh yeah.
So you can easily look down into this manhole where there is a metal ladder leading down. Go ahead and make a spot listen roll.
That's an 86 over 56.
Okay.
So probably a little stressed.
It's a little hard to try to listen to see if you hear anything down below because of all of the, echoed light groanings from all of the frenzied in the streets. But you don't see anything. You don't see any shadows of any movement or anything from your location here.
Once I make it to the bottom, I will step just a little bit away from the ladder in towards the direction of the church.
Mm-hmm.
And I will double click my walkie, which we had worked out. Double click on the walkie means come on down.
Yeah. And as your flashlight shines through the tunnel, it does that really annoying thing that I hate in movies where it shines into the camera.
Wait, everybody, stop. What's that noise?
I think there's something.
Is that a kid?
It's gonna be alright, kid. We're not gonna hurt you. We're gonna take you somewhere safe. What the fuck? Oh!
What the
Jesus!
fuck? Get away from it!
Get away from it!
I don't wanna hurt this kid!
Fucking run! It's chasing us. We went down a tunnel. I don't know where you are.
Tell them to just run!
Listen to me, Rory. Just keep running. Get out of here.
Yasmin, you bend down and grab the flashlight that had been dropped. It's covered in dust. You look around the tunnel. The light is shaking as your hand shakes, as it's panning around. You don't see any sign of Rory, or Lou, or Dewey. Darren is beside you. You can hear both of you breathing, hard, shaky. You want to call out. You want to yell for them. But you know noise is the worst mistake you could make. What would the two of you like to do?
Do we see any storm drains that go up?
You do, yes. Kind of shining the flashlight around a little bit. Behind you, going a little bit further, you do see a little ladder leading up to one.
And do we have a sense of where we are? We had a plan, obviously, going through. We presumably were scouting out and all that kind of stuff. But in the action of what just happened, do we have an idea of where we're at, or do we need to figure that out before we go anywhere else?
I would say both of you could make a navigation roll.
Yeah, no, that's a 96. We're starting off real good, y'all.
Also, a 79, so not good. I don't know what my navigation skill is, but it's not that.
In the chaos, it was too hard to keep track of where you have flung yourselves off to.
I'm imagining Yasmin is looking, and Darren sees her see the ladder over, kind of over near us, and Darren kind of leans over, super panicked, super just wigged out of his mind, and just leans in and as quietly as he can manage voice shaking, says, We need to stay focused. We need to get there. We need to go. We need to just keep moving. We all agreed on that. We have to keep going. We have to keep going.
I don't know if this is true in Chicago, so you can tell me if I'm crazy, but some sewer systems have, like, if not a map, then like a note of like where you are to help sanitation workers figure out where they are. So can I look for that to see if I can figure out based on context clues where we are versus like my own recognition, or was that tied up in the critical fail?
Yeah, I think with
Okay.
that being a critical fail, there's probably not one of those
For sure.
near here.
Okay. Then I'll without saying anything, point up and start heading to the ladder.
Being cautious to step more on the sides than in any of like the mud or water or whatever is in here. You get over to the ladder, you climbing up and kind of looking out. Is that the goal here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of push that up and slide it over. We cut over to like an exterior shot of this manhole cover, basically, as it's being pushed up and slid over, and you're able to kind of like grab on, pull yourself up slightly, and look around. You feel very light raindrops. You see it's darker than you were expecting because of the clouds that are rolling in. You knew it was getting close to nightfall, but it's definitely darker than you were expecting, and that was kind of a little bit alarming before you felt the raindrops. And you look out and you see the church on the corner. You're exactly where you're supposed to be.
I will reach down to Darren and just motion for him to follow and then climb up. But before I do that, I just want to make sure there are no zombies in the immediate area.
There are a few, but they do seem to be in that like dormant state that you have seen them in previously. And I will note their attention doesn't seem to be brought to like the church windows or doors or anything like that. You can see a lot of them are actually facing the direction of where all of you came from, possibly facing the direction of a car alarm that went off earlier today.
Great. So yeah, I will climb out and then help Darren out if he needs it.
Statistically, he would need it. Looking at my character sheet.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, there aren't as many surrounding the church as you thought there would be, or maybe you were expecting there to be, going off of past luck and experiences. You look at each other, and then for the first time for the audience, we see another hand come up as the teenagers that are with you climb up out of this. They look terrified. The three of them are basically like stuck like glue to each other, kind of like holding on to each other's arms, and they have about the same idea of what happened down there as you do, and you would just see them physically shaking. What would you like to do now?
Does the church door or windows or anything have like survivors here or like a call to action of how to get into the building or anything?
Yeah, or like ropes or ladders or something that would be more accessible to the non-undead of us than others.
Sure, let's have you both make a spot listen roll.
It's like a 14 under 50 something. So I think 4 levels of success.
Yeah, I did not. But we'll just say Yasmin's probably looking for the looking at the zombies and helping the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are no like signs like, survivors inside or anything like that. And I feel like that's a lot of what Yasmin is looking for, kind of looking at the church itself, as Darren is kind of looking more up and looking for things that wouldn't make sense to really be there on a normal Chicago street. I will say with those 4 levels of success, Darren, you see the slightest bit of movement inside of the boarded up windows. There are people inside. There looks to be like candles lit or something, some sort of light source in there that you can see people kind of like passing by. You also see there is a building beside the church that seems to have a window busted out of it, and there looks to be some sort of makeshift bridge built from a church window to the window of that building.
Do we go up to the front door is the question. And like, would a front door be barricaded and whatever? Because I don't want to be like lingering outside of this church for particularly long, if at all possible. But also, maybe just the direct approach is good.
We can certainly try, and then, if no one answers, make our way up into the building.
Yeah, I see. I think I see people in there. So it's the right spot at least.
I'll head towards the door, and just like herd the children like ducklings.
Yeah, we're moving as quickly as we can without making a commotion, I think.
Sure. It is starting to rain a little bit harder, and you're realizing like the sound of the rain is probably giving you a bit of an advantage here as you're moving. So I'm not gonna have you roll for stealth at this point, just because of your stealth rolls previously. You are kind of moving up as a group toward the front door of this church, and you see someone looking sort of out of the window closest to the door there before you reach the door. You see a man, dark, black hair, tousled, messy. You're not sure if that was a choice or if that was the past couple of days. But you see like silvery blue eyes, and he kind of like holds up his hands, looking at you, holds a finger to his mouth, and then motions for one of you or all of you to come closer to the window.
Yeah.
We do so. I think we all do. I think we're
Everybody
just
kind
of
yeah.
I think so. Like if this is an elaborate trap, we're fucked. So whatever.
Yeah, I will say probably that Yasmin is keeping her gun like on her, actively kind of watching behind them just in case, and she'll leave talking to Darren.
Okay. Yeah, Darren, you kind of are in front here, heading up to this window. The man speaks very softly. He says, "You can't get in from the ground. We have a bridge," and he kind of like points over. It leads to one of the upper windows. It's sturdy and safe, and I can meet you up there.
Okay. Do we need to know anything? Are there locks? Are there booby traps? Anything like that? Just a bridge.
I don't know if there are any infected in that building. We don't have that building locked down, so just be careful.
Thank you. And just like will not look a gift horse in the mouth, and just starts moving that direction and motions for everyone else to.
All right. The two of you and the 3 teenagers shift over as a group toward this other building. You see the door itself was a glass door and it's just completely shattered in. You can see the lock is still locked on the inside, but the whole door has just been busted in. You can just step through. This building has 3 stories, and it looks to be, from the looks of it, some sort of like enrollment office for probably like the Catholic school on the other side of the street or something. It looks very boring office type, like nothing useful. Your eyes at this point are probably trained to try to find useful items, and scanning, there's nothing useful in here. As you are sort of pushing through, you do see many spots of blood that don't seem to have a body with the spots of blood. Is there any certain way you would like to, I guess, any notes you have for me for moving through this building?
And Darren, you can correct me if this is not, if you have a different idea, but what I'm thinking is Yasmin would take point and kind of be not far ahead of the group, because we're a small group, we'd want to stay together, but she'd kind of clear rooms as we entered them so that she can tell the others to run if we need to. And then keeping the kids in the middle, basically.
Yeah, sounds good.
And what weapons do the two of you have out right now? Like,
Darren has his pistol.
Okay.
Darren would know that even if it's close combat, like there's no that he's not advantaged not using a gun and trying to brute force through anything. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have the AK, but I would give the tire iron to one of the kids just in case.
Okay.
Whichever one is a
Same.
jock or some. If I think one of them was a football player or something.
Yeah. Okay. And you begin moving up these stairs. Quietly. As quickly as you can. You push up to the next floor, and you're looking around for the room that would have this window busted out. And you hear the sounds of infected above you. On the third floor, you can hear definite sounds of roaming. You hear some groans, some off-putting snarls here and there. You move forward, and you come to the room where you look in and you see the glass busted. You see the beginning of this makeshift bridge.
Don't like this. Pad, we know about these, and it's bad. They're not good.
Is the room empty?
Glancing around, make a spotless roll.
No, that's like 2 degrees of failure. Yeah.
Mine was 3 degrees of success.
So in that case, Yasmin goes to like take a step forward. Darren throws his arm out for a second. Like, you know, the mom in the car arm sort of throw. And then you point. You can see some sort of movement behind the desk of this room.
Boy, that is unhelpfully vague.
Mm-hmm. Behind a desk, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yasmin's not going to say anything, but she's going to position herself between, just kind of step into the room and put her back to the door and aim at the desk, and then wave the rest of them through.
And actually, Darren would step forward too, because we all have like makeshift shields and stuff, assuming we didn't lose it in the fracas, but would like do the full kind of like shield wall kind of thing of just like getting right next to her and just have his gun out, but mostly just be kind of there, like ready to push anything back that jumps out at them. But at least, yeah, gestures the kids to the window, if not to start going, at least to be not right in this area.
Perfect. Yeah, and they do so. They start moving as a group through the room. And the moment that they would be in the eyesight of whatever is behind this desk, you see an arm kind of come up and another one come up. Something is dragging itself out from behind this desk. You see it's slow. It doesn't jump out at these kids. You see them clearly notice it as well, and they're kind of like taking some steps away. You see this infected crawling, and once it reaches around the desk, you see that it's just the torso. No legs. It's leaving guts and gore behind it as it is attempting to crawl towards these teenagers.
I feel like they're running faster than this thing is crawling, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, then I will not
brisk
shoot it.
power
I'm not
walk,
going to
I
risk
think.
that shit.
I agree. I think we just we power walk aggressively away, and if it follows us, we can just kick it off.
Perfect.
And hope for the best.
Yeah. As
Maybe they
it's
have some
crawling,
rakes on the other side.
yeah, everyone just begins to move around it, and you see the teenagers have reached this bridge, and they are not wasting any time. They're getting up, and you can see the way these pews are basically nailed and shifted together. You have a bit of a railing on this bridge that is, well, you're quite thankful for.
Yes, we are. For
last time.
reasons. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
For reasons.
And it's an easy crawl, basically, as they are getting onto this bridge and beginning to crawl. There's a slight angle. The windows don't quite match up from both buildings. A slight angle as they are crawling down. You can see the window is open now. You can actually see as you are approaching it, something seems to have moved out of the way of blocking that church window. And the teenagers climb through. You can hear the creature crawling behind you. You can hear the groans as the blood is just spilling from its mouth as it's crawling. You hear the organs squishing out of the back as it is coming, but it is not fast.
Great. Love it. I think Yasmin would be last. She'd let everybody else go first, and then we all climb in and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just imagining we're all tumbling in, just not carrying, not getting off appropriately, just bleh.
Yeah, as you come into this room, you see the man, it's the same man that you had seen at the window, pushes this shelf back in front of the door, and you see he's tall. He looks like he was once wearing a white button-up shirt, but it's stained and dirtied now, and he has what you notice are leather Bible covers wrapped and strapped on his arms. Makeshift armor. And he has some sort of pipe that he appears to have gotten off. It almost looks like an exhaust pipe. It looks like it was picked up off the streets from some sort of accident. And it is hooked to what appears to have been his tie that's now doubling as a holster on his hip. He places one hand onto that pipe as you're coming in, and you see he looks hopeful but nervous, eyeing all of you up. You are coming in with, you have an AK-47, you have a pistol, you are geared up like you have been preparing for this your entire lives.
We have teens and their wild cards, so that's always, you're always worried about that.
Yeah.
Hormones.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that comes out of his mouth, hand on pipe, he says, "Are any of you bitten?"
Yasmin spins the gun around so it's back on her back again and she's not holding it. No, we managed to get through the sewers relatively safely.
Yeah, Darren would lift his shirt, show while talking, is absolutely just doesn't care. Is just being as transparent and trying to get this over and as quickly as possible, basically. So while the Yasmin is talking, just showing every bit of skin he can think to show that is, family friendly.
Yeah.
For the family friendly show we're on.
Yeah, totally. The teens kind of follow your lead, and they're showing their arms and they're showing their neck. They're no, none of us are bitten. And he seems comforted by the fact that you're so willing to be no, look here, check. I'm not bitten. He seems to relax a lot at that. And you actually see his shoulders kind of like slump down a little bit as he's relaxing. He says, "My name is Carter, and I can officially say it is a pleasure to meet you. Let me introduce you to everyone." And he turns towards the staircase that will lead down into the main area of the church. Do you follow?
Yep.
All right. As you are heading downstairs, why don't the two of you describe what everyone is seeing as you are coming into this main area? Darren, you go first.
Darren is a tall, skinny, white tech bro kind of vibe. He if you had seen Darren several days ago, he would have been dressed immaculately, but like fun and functional, appropriate office executive kind of thing. But he's pretty young, but now is definitely like a little gaunter, bags under his eyes, has all kinds of, has like children's soccer knee pads on his forearms as bracers, is just warily holding like a trash can lid and a pistol, and is looking around with like a little bit of nerves, but also immediately, like you can tell he is so relieved to be here, even as conflicted as he is.
There's also an eye patch situation.
And an eye patch, yes. And it is not, it's a little grody.
Listen, I did my best with what I had on hand.
Yeah, it's just not ideal, the whole situation. Don't ask. It was a really cool way that I lost my eye. Don't ask about it. I don't like to
Fight
talk
with a
about
bear.
it. Yeah, it was really cool though, for sure.
Yasmin is a middle-aged woman, tanned skin, hijab. She's wearing a long-sleeve shirt and clearly does not seem comfortable in it, but it is, practical. Long slacks, boots, carrying a large rucksack on her back, like the big camping ones, and an AK-47 that is strapped on top of that. She's seeming pretty calm considering, but just keeping a lookout everywhere, and seems just to be keeping an eye on the children as well, after everything that we went through. Trying to think if there's anything else. Probably not. Yeah. There's also situation of, soccer pads and all these things as well. That's about it.
And as they are coming down, the two of you see a few people scattered in this main church area. You can see the windows, all boarded up from the inside here. You see probably the first person that you would see. You see a man sitting and kind of like holding a box in his hand. Rick, why don't you describe your character to us?
They're sitting on this bench is a man, obviously office worker. The tie and collar still needlessly pulled up tight. Probably the only dent in his bureaucratic armor is he's taking the opportunity to roll his sleeves up 2 turns, but that's it. The tie is still in a perfect place. He looks up from his box as he sees you guys coming down the stairs, and it starts to stand, as is customary when meeting someone.
And a little ways off, you probably kind of hear the sound of a, let me ask, Joy, is it spray paint or is it like markers? Like
it's
Sharpie
spray,
situation?
It's spray paint, yeah.
Yeah, you hear a spray paint can being kind of like clicking around. You look over. Describe Joy to us.
Joy doesn't look older than like 17, probably like a junior in like high school. She's wearing like a ratty like hoodie and has like a baggy t-shirt underneath with some pants and sneakers. Kind of like dusted with like dirt and like been out and running around. But yeah, she's just sitting there like anxiously shaking the can, not spraying it, but just shaking it constantly, like stopping, looking at everybody, shaking it again, but also just kind of keeping to herself for the time being.
And kind of like scanning over a little bit more, you see what can only be described as a mailman, Marty.
Right, so Marty is probably, he's probably sitting on a bench fiddling with his USPS official scanner. He's middle-aged, late 30s, early 40s. His uniform is pretty tattered, although, who wouldn't be a little tattered in this situation? And even though it's spring, he's already got his uniform shorts on with the tall socks. As he sees you guys coming down the stairs, his little scanner makes a couple beep beep beeps, and he sort of puts it in his little holster, looks up and gives a little wave, and then notices that no one is really it's a tense situation, so he puts his hand down and looks around and takes the scanner back out and makes a couple more beeps.
Oh, Darren would definitely wave back, for the record. It could be extraordinarily tense, and Darren would just kind of also do like a...
Fantastic. All right.
Glancing over, probably sitting on a bench as well, you see I guess the best way to describe this is you see a mom, cardigan sweater, Nancy.
Nancy Keene is a former stay-at-home soccer mom. She's about 5'6". Her blonde hair is still perfectly styled, despite everything that's happened. She's maybe 45, but she looks a little bit younger because she's had a tasteful nose job. And she's still wearing all of her jewelry, that fancy cardigan that's from Neiman's. And she just spent all of her time while the kids were in school whiling away the hours watching all these fun marathons on TV. But now that the kids have graduated and the dead have risen, she's putting those skills to the test. Carrie, as they enter, is the Reverend within earshot?
No. And the last person that you see, Parker. What do they see from you?
Parker is probably also sitting in one of the pews. He is about 5'10" or 5'11". His hair was bleached, but that was a very long time ago. It has grown out to about his shoulder, so just the very tips of it are still that sort of dirty blonde at this point. The rest of it is dark. He is very tan, like he has spent a lot of time outside. And he is wearing a white, ratty-looking t-shirt that says "spew" across it in a very stylized font with a spray-painted vomiting emoji with X's over the eyes. Flannel shirt over that, rolled-up cuffed black jeans, Doc Martens. He has an acoustic guitar across his lap that has a crack through the body that he is in the process of tuning to the best of his ability. And his arms have a host of tattoos that have no theme or style connection to each other. Just a mix of everything you could possibly imagine. And he is also going to smile very widely when you come in and wave.
Yeah, and there's a few moments of silence as everyone kind of like looks over and sees each other. I'll let you decide who breaks that silence.
Nancy.
Oh no!
Please, go ahead.
I am very much enjoying this being a tie of both of us breaking the silence at the same time, because that feels about right.
Correct. Yeah.
From the vibes presented. Darren, at least on his at his, we'll, at the count of 3, we'll be saying these things at the same time. But Darren would just start introducing himself of like, "Hi, everybody. My name is Darren. We were across the way. This is, it's like just doing like a weirdly formal kind of like, oh yeah, this is us kind of introduction."
Nancy will look up, see everyone, scan the room, and the Reverend is not in the room. He's somewhere else.
Correct.
Or okay. So Nancy looks around, hears you like starting to speak, and she says, "Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. We've got more of them."
Darren just turns very subtly, because Darren is a skilled social chameleon, but definitely does turn and just look at Yasmin. Just,
Sorry, what is it that you are meaning?
It's just been a bit of a day here at the church. Some things have happened. Some words have been said. I guess we shouldn't be surprised that people are showing up, but I guess. Oh, go ahead.
I don't think Nancy is intending to be unneighborly, but it has been a bit of a stressful time for some of us, all of us, actually. So please take that into account. Don't judge her just from that. She really is a lovely person.
Oh my God. Where are my manners? I'm Nancy Keene. It's nice to meet you. Welcome to our church. Everything's gonna be okay, baby.
It's not
Doug, very straight-laced, is going to put his hand out and walk over towards Darren.
Finally.
He does so, he's going to cut his eyes over to Carter with a questioning look and kind of mouth. Checked? Did you check?
I checked. They're good.
Doug Michaels, it's nice to meet you. I think you said your name was Darren?
Yes, sir. Doug, it is a pleasure to meet you. Thank you. Thank you all, of course, for welcoming us. He says, knowing that it's complicated. Thank you all. It's we also have had a couple of days for sure. We were traveling with others actually to try and get here. Darren,
do you know White Columns? White Columns, the subdivision's about 2 miles that way. Did you go through it? Do you know, has it been overrun? Has the infection gotten there? Do you know that one? White Columns, middle upper class?
I actually live out in Hinsdale, which anyone who lives in Chicago knows it's the very rich suburb. And I commute straight downtown, so I don't really know. But yeah,
I looked at Yasmin. Have you seen White Columns? Is it okay?
I am. I live closer to this hospital. My name is Dr. Yasmin Khan. I'm a surgeon. If you would like, do you have any injured? I can take a look. I brought medical supplies in a packed bag on my back.
I'm gonna go ahead and have Yasmin and Darren just roll an empathy roll for me. I'll let you use empathy or detect motives.
I was too distracted by Doug's very good handshake.
Firm.
2 failures.
That's a 1 under 38.
Nice.
And it's a 1, not a 100, right?
Yeah, I had to double check.
Burned
That is a
many
1.
times.
That has bit me so many times. No, that's
So-
a 1.
The more you're seeing these people greet you, it's becoming very evident to you, Yasmin, that these people have been in here since it began. They haven't seen anything else.
Mm.
And I think that is just becoming very clear to you from the way that they are interacting and just the general morale in the church itself.
I think Parker is gonna set the guitar down and walk over and he's going to put a hand on Doug's shoulder as he gets there, and he's going to say, "Look, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure they're fine." And then he's going to turn to the other two, all the newcomers, including the teenagers, and he's going to say, "Welcome to the church. Didn't want you to feel like you were unwelcome. Sorry about that, but can we? It's safe here. Can I take your weapons?"
Of course, is there somewhere you are keeping them in cache to ensure that they're easy to access in case?
Wow, that sounds like a really good idea. Can we do something like that?
One of the teenagers interrupts and they say, it's safe here, right?
Yeah. It's totally safe here. But yeah. Definitely.
Marty is going to look at Doug and Nancy, be like, "But we want to tell him, right?"
Carter kind of holds up his hand and looks to Yasmin and Darren. Did Shannon send you? Do you know Shannon?
Was
Yeah.
that who?
Mason's partner.
Yeah.
The one that, yeah. We never met Shannon, but I'm sorry, she did not make it. It is because of her we know that you are here, though. Why we came.
With that, Carter doesn't say anything else. He just turns and goes and sits down, and you just see him kind of put his head in his hands.
I think at a certain point, maybe you hear him more than before you see him, but the Reverend is going to enter the room, and you hear him say, "Come, let us return to the Lord, for he has torn us, but he will heal us. He has wounded us, but he will bandage us. Welcome. I see we have some newcomers. Hello, everyone." The Reverend is not a particularly tall guy, thin, wearing the classic black robes and a white collar. He has this kind of tight red hair kind of in his hair, and he wears these glasses. Just has a big smile on his face and is speaking very softly.
I feel like the energy in the room shifts drastically.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could I do like a Darren is very familiar with the power of making an entrance, especially to newcomers or to, around a boardroom, whatever. Can could I roll some sort of, I don't remember what an insight check, whatever the term is, not necessarily on him, just because I feel like it's a little early, but like to really read how everyone else reacts to him entering the room.
Yeah,
Like just to get a sense of like what his like presence means to these people.
I think a detect motives would be good for that one.
I rolled really bad.
You can see Doug
Two
start
failures.
patting his pockets like he's looking for something, and he uses that as an excuse to turn his back to the Reverend and maybe step off a few steps.
I was gonna say that I think like as the Reverend makes his entrance, Parker's gonna try to pull the teens away, almost like very very intentionally, just kind of be like engaging them in conversation, like, "Hey, what's your name? Why don't you come meet Joy?" And he's gonna try to like lead them away from where the Reverend is gonna be doing whatever he's about to do.
Yeah, I would also add that Marty would probably intervene himself between the Reverend and these two, and the two that Parker hasn't taken with him. And I mean, Marty is like a short but kind of stocky guy, and when this happens, he sort of gets in there, and he's like, his shoulders are a little set back. Doesn't look like he's gonna attack anyone, but there's definitely some sort of like, "Hey, what's going on? We just got some new people who arrived. A doctor. She's got some medical supplies. It all seems good. They're not bit. We're all on the level here."
Well, as they're distracted with the newcomers, the Reverend's going to notice the teenagers and walk over to them and say, "Oh, thank the Lord. The children are here. They're still alive. They are God's gift after all, and I'll pat them all on their heads nicely. We're going to need them if we're going to survive this. Praise the Lord.
All of them kind of look over at Yasmin and Darren like mom and dad, basically.
Yeah,
like,
I'm gonna walk
like...
over and kind of interject. I feel like Yasmin adjusts her scarf a little bit, just subconsciously, knowing where we are, and just say, Father, is that how I? It is a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Yasmin Khan.
A doctor. That's wonderful to know.
Yes. Is there anything we can do to assist? It is with great pleasure we are able to offer any help we can.
That's wonderful news. It's anything you can do would be wonderful. Keeping quiet will certainly help, and preparing yourself, as we all are preparing ourselves for when the flock arrives.
The flock?
Yes, and I gesture outside to the windows.
Do you have other people that you have sent out to collect survivors here?
Not that I'm aware of. The flock is you, it's me, it's these folks, it's everyone outside. We'll all be saved at some point, I'm sure of it.
I see that your faith is strong, as is mine. It is good to have hope in such trying times.
I appreciate that, and it's good to have someone with faith here, as we all could learn to have a little bit of faith. Am I right? And I gesture out to all the survivors in the room. Have we searched them for weapons? Made sure that they put them away? Parker?
Yeah, I mean, they clearly, yeah, they do. They had some really good ideas about, organizing them and keeping them in one spot that I really think we should implement. But I was actually just gonna, go show these three what Joy's working on. I think probably they'd really get a kick out of it. We're always saying she should associate with people her own age.
Of course, yes. I'm going to prepare communion, so if anyone is hungry, I'll go unlock the cabinet and have food ready for you. Come find me when you're ready.
Oh boy.
Of course. The teens shuffle awkwardly over to where Joy is, and they just kind of sit down. They make eye contact, but they seem very uneasy right now.
Carrie, I have to ask you a question that I don't like. I rolled really bad on the empathy roll and the motive roll. And all these people keep talking about how you mentioned, they don't know how bad it is. They've been in here. They keep saying, "Oh yeah, more people are gonna come." We know that is murky, and it keeps getting brought up. And I, Nathan, am going back and forth on whether Darren would say something. Just be like, "Guys, I gotta be honest, he would of course frame it in a rah-rah kind of way, but I am wondering if the empathy roll that I rolled earlier rolls over to whether I would figure out if that is a good idea, or if I could roll a new one or a passive one or something like that, because it would occur to Darren that he should tell these people, or at least it would occur to that these people must not know, and we definitely know.
Yeah, go ahead and make another detect motives roll.
Okay, that's great news since I rolled so bad the last time. Oh, I rolled worse.
Oh no.
I rolled worse. I rolled really bad. Almost another 100. It was a 98.
Oh man.
I'm gonna have to get actual human dice because
the virtual dice aren't doing it today.
Apparently not.
Can I ask, whether with my previous one or with a different role, do they seem afraid of the Reverend, or are they drinking the Kool-Aid, as it were?
I'll say with that 1%, that was over 3 levels of success, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say there is a good layer of fear in here.
Okay.
Darren, with that failure, I think Darren's a talker.
Well, you got to be transparent with your people. The people you're working with. That's the foundation of good business, good progress, and just good teamwork. And so at some point, I think we've moved past it, but it's been, mentioned a couple times. But Darren would kind of look around the room and say, guys, hey, just if I could just get your attention, give me some eyes just for a moment. We don't know, we haven't heard too much, but before the cell towers and stuff went down, just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. We called a lot of people. The people we were with reached out to their close contacts, and it seems like what's happening is happening at a very wide scale. I don't want to, theorize or make any assumptions, but phone calls to Wisconsin, phone calls downtown, everywhere we reached out to, and he's like losing steam now, was not in a good place.
I think Yasmin puts a hand on his shoulder. I think what Darren is trying to say is that it does not look good at the moment, but we are here and we are safe, and that is
absolutely
something to be thankful for.
Exactly. And I think it's just good that we're on the same page, that we're building the same direction, we're starting from the same place, the same assumptions, and then we go from there. From there.
I appreciate you're sharing that with us, but it doesn't mean anything. There's probably places where people are just fine and safe. You're giving us anecdote, but with no real empirical evidence. There's got to be places where everything is okay in everyone.
It is important to have hope. I too have family that are not here. I think we all have someone we care about that is not here. And if we keep up our own hope or faith or whatever it is that you feel in your heart, whatever, it will help us keep going until we can find them again. Yes?
We should be finding these people now.
Let's not do this again.
You said you heard of Shannon. How did you hear of Shannon? And did you find any other groups of people like us, or are we the first you've run into?
There was a group of us in an apartment building not too far away, as well as a building across from us. And it is that group which had bumped into Shannon. They made contact. We brought our groups together. It's where the children came from. And her intelligence that you were here and well barricaded was what drove us to come find you. And to, what's the word? Collect our unique skills and supplies. And we brought everything that we could carry to help bolster the groups as well.
But you are the only other alive people we've seen. You didn't see anyone else out there?
There are a few. We have another half of our party as well. We were separated, but keep a weather eye. Hopefully they will make their way here as well.
Yeah, but they know where we were going. You guys were always the destination. I'm sure that they'll be here, and they're a great bunch of folks. I think they'll really add a lot to the team here, and then we'll get to go from there, and it'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put a hand on Doug's shoulder, give him a pat, and say, hang on to that present, buddy. But the information we keep hearing just keeps getting not good.
I know we're getting anecdotes. It's a little. Of course, everybody's going to talk about what was worse. I mean, and Doug's just going to kind of shrug it off, walk over to a pew, sit down, and start fiddling with the box.
At this point, Nancy will turn to the others that are still in the church group that haven't joined like a pew, and say, well, we can't really go out changing what's out there in the world, but we can change what's in here. And just kind of tries to send a knowing look at the people in the church and the newcomers before turning and kind of loudly calling to the Reverend. Oh, Reverend, I just wanted to pick your brain.
Nancy! No yelling.
I just wanted to pick your brain about the resurrection in the Bible, and I wanted to get your wonderful, knowledgeable, reverendy insight on that matter. It seems like the kind of thing that might be somewhat relevant to the situation that we're facing currently.
Well, I'm glad to know that you're interested in the Lord's Word. Come, while I build the communion, why don't you come help me and I'll talk to you about it.
Of course, Reverend. Thank you for accepting even us lapsed Catholics at your church. And before I join a pew, I will turn to Darren and Yasmin and whisper, don't trust him. Don't let the kids with him. And I'll join a pew.
What has Joy been doing?
I think while all the adults have been talking, Joy has probably tried to shuffle her and the other teens into like a hallway where she's been tagging up and down with the spray paint, and just like show them like her little bag that has just like a couple cans, and I'm just like pass them out, and we're just all just tagging up the walls.
Probably in silence too. I don't think any of them would be asking any questions. They're just, you can kind of see them too, like looking out at, like trying to see where Yasmin and Darren are, trying to listen in on any conversations. You see they're looking more and more terrified the longer that they're here. Mm-hmm.
I'm like looking around to see like where the Reverend's at. But hopefully like I also make eye contact with Parker and like give him a look like someone needs to like say something. Just keep at it.
Let me ask, is there anything specific that you are putting on these walls? Are you writing any sort of message or anything like that, or are you just doing like your usual?
I think it started with just like the usual tagging that I would normally like do around town, but eventually it's probably starting to like draw out what like some of the zombies look like, just to kind of fill that stuff, like writing that like on the sides of the wall like zombie, but like in like a more of like a tagger like short form kind of way. But it's just, yeah, it's slowly becoming a process of like decompressing like the stress of this.
Fair enough.
Receiving that look from Joy, Parker is going to turn back to Darren and Yasmin and say, we got a room that I think would work for a weapon stockpile. If you think you're gonna stay for a minute, I can show you.
Of course.
I'm not trying to take them to a specific room, but like anywhere with a little more privacy. And assuming that we have a place like that, then are you both coming?
Where are the teens?
The teens are in the hallway with Joy.
Okay. Is anyone else? Like, Nancy's with the Reverend. But like, I think Darren would go, and I don't think would shoot a look to Yasmin or anything. But I think part of the reason Darren would go is that he has a screwdriver that he's sharpened as one of his weapons, and is going to take this opportunity, if he is actually going to dish weapons, to put it somewhere on his person, like a pocket. I mean, anywhere, pocket, inside one of the children's soccer shin pads, anything. He's going to try and like make sure that at least, while attention is not on the new people, is stashed away.
Is Parker like come out to us, or has he kind of motioned us over to go somewhere? Like, are we in proximity of the kids?
I think he is basically like stepping to the middle of the church and talking to you and sort of indicating that you should follow from like a halfway point, basically.
Yasmin would say yes, of course, but she'd go over to the kids first and just lean into probably the one I gave the tire iron to, and say, if the Reverend tries to bring you anywhere, you come find me. You understand?
I don't want to be here.
I know. We will figure this out, I promise. You can trust us. I will look after you.
Okay.
Good. And I squeeze his shoulder, and go with Parker.
Yeah, and you're
And
able to find a room sort of in private.
Cool. Like a broom closet or something. And Parker will open the door, show you both inside, and try to, if we can all fit, shut it behind the three of us. And then he's going to let out a breath that he's been holding and sort of drop the very happy, welcoming sort of smile routine. And he's going to say, "You all picked a really complicated time to show up."
Got that. What is the problem? What is his, what is his deal?
Up until like yesterday, he was fine. He seemed fine. None of us really know him. We all kind of just ended up here, but a lot changed. Something changed. I don't know what, but now he walks around giving these sermons all the time, and he's hurt some people.
What do you mean?
He calls it sacrifice. It was too late for any of us to do anything by the time we realized what was happening. He threw someone off the tower. He said it was a sacrifice, that it would keep us safe. And right now, we haven't really had a chance to figure out what we're doing, what our plan is. He's kind of always around, and you heard him. He has the food. He has this place locked up. And none of us really know what's out there anyway.
Okay.
At this, like, Darren's heart snaps in half. Like, Darren was barely holding it together long enough to get here. And to hear that this situation is sounds worse, maybe. than where we came from, just immediately, like, Yasmin and Parker would both see him just, like, slump over. Just, even beyond the horribleness of it, the, like, dire world, I guess, that he's entered into and that he has helped bring other people into and might bring other people of the group into, is like immediately he starts like spiraling just a little bit.
You will.
Look, go ahead.
Obviously, one of my tenets that I have followed for many years is do no harm, but you do also outnumber him by quite a lot. Has there been resistance of any kind?
Look, you saw us. We're the ones who stayed behind to, like, barricade. There have been people who have gone out to try to get supplies, find other survivors. There's a reason that wasn't us. And, like, you're here now, you've got guns, I assume you know how to use them. I don't know. Like I said, we haven't even been able to fucking talk about what happened.
Does he have, like, his, does anyone, like, I don't know, agree? That's not the word. Support?
It's complicated. I mean, you said you showed up because you met Shannon's partner.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't hear the bells then.
We did.
Yeah.
Yesterday, day before.
Okay. There was a lot of arguing about the bells. Not everybody agreed with each other. I can't imagine anybody thinks that the sacrifices are going to work. I don't know. Doug's been pushed pretty far by all this, but he's, like I said, he's always around, and it's hard to talk about any of this.
Speaking of always around, the Reverend is making his way around the church, letting everyone know that it's communion time and to come join us.
Parker's just gonna say, as the Reverend starts calling everybody to communion, Parker's just gonna say, I'm not telling you this to tell you what to do. I'm not telling you to, like, shoot anyone or anything. That's obviously whatever you want to do, you're gonna do it. I just want you to know what's going on. And he looks around and then leans in and says a little quieter, just keep your weapons with you. I'll just say that I flaked. Nobody would disbelieve that.
Thanks.
And then we'll leave the closet.
And I
Right.
think, oh, sorry, I was gonna say just the last thing, and it can be the dramatic button, but Darren would lean in and say, what are we gonna tell the others? Are we gonna wait for them? Or do we want them even to come? And I imagine they just gotta, like, share a look and then walk so as not to arouse suspicion.
Yep.
So when Doug saw Parker take Darren and Yasmin to another room, sets the box down on the pew, straightens up his tie, and walks over to Marty. Marty, I just wanted you to know I appreciated the sentiment earlier. I really did. Look, there's going to have to be some certain social structure here. There's going to have to be some contract between us all. If there's not some organization, it's all going to go to hell really, really quickly. Look, we're in a church. The natural leader would be the priest. Well, he disqualified himself quickly, right? So we've got to have some order here. Now, Darren, he looks like the natural leader type. He comes in and just, but we don't know this guy. Look, you're a government official, right? I think you need to stand up and start, taking control of this situation a little bit. I've got your back on this, and you take control of it. I'll support you, and then look, if the government's going to come and save everybody, well, there's people out there. We need to get here quick, right? And I'll back your play on all of this, man. I'm in your corner, and I'll give him a pat on the shoulder like he did me, and we good?
Listen, I appreciate the sentiment. I mean, the world has already gone to hell, and it's already gone to hell out there and in here. So I don't know how much order we can impose on any situation, but I absolutely agree with you that the Reverend is disqualified himself for for any sort of leadership position in this group. And while I agree that if the government is coming, we should be doing everything in our power to make sure that we're attracting as many people we can save as possible. I don't know how, this is not a safe place, and you know that, and I know that. So I'm honestly a little bit at a loss. I mean, my boss was eaten. I saw it happen. I don't know if that makes me like next in line for anything, but
look, it's that kind of level-headedness that we need in a leader around here. So
all right. So we need to get Joy, and we need to get Nancy, and we need to get Parker. And if we're going to make any sort of play, we have to have everyone on board. So, if you can grab Nancy or talk to her, and I'll talk to Joy and Parker, and we're gonna have to. We can't just do this half-cocked. Like we're gonna have to lay some groundwork here, right?
Oh, absolutely. But the worst thing we can do is go into a group with, what are we going to do? Let's take the plan to them, right? I think we can convince them. Remember, got your back. You're the man here. You're a government official, so.
Marty beeps his little scanner.
And it is at this moment that you hear the Reverend's voice.
Okay.
From what was said previously.
At this point, as everyone kind of comes and joins at the front of the church, the Reverend on his altar has laid out food. Clearly he has some kind of pantry he has access to, and he puts away a big chain of keys that he's got on his pocket, and is laying out food. It looks like stuff you'd find in the middle of a grocery store, packaged foods, cereals, things that are not perishable, some kind of fruits and stuff. As everyone comes to the front, he calls them and says, "Everyone, I have good news. While I was upstairs praying, I received a message about how to proceed. We in here are saved by the Lord. Those out there, the flock, they too will be saved. But they need us to guide them. We've been placed here to purify ourselves, and so as we take communion today, I'm going to call out some new guidelines we should follow to keep ourselves safe. And I'll gesture for someone to come up first and take communion. Probably to Nancy, since she's been helping me. And as you approach Nancy, I hold up a banana and I say, "This is the body of Christ," and I hand it to you.
Praise the Lord.
And one at a time, "This is the body of Christ," and I hand a tasty cake or a box of cereal or something. And as I go through this and hand everyone some rations, I say, there is new commandments I'd like us to think of. The first, thou shalt not yell or make excessive noise. And I look at Nancy. And then I continue, thou must be baptized to stay in this church. Cleansing ourselves makes us pure. Thou shalt take communion every morning. And I gesture to everyone with their food. Thou shalt not curse or take the Lord's name in vain. Thou shalt not mock the reverend. Thou shalt not fornicate or gamble while in our sanctuary. Thou shalt pray for forgiveness twice per day. Thou shalt renounce all earthly possessions, including weapons, while in the church. And I look at Parker. And finally, thou shalt not kill a member of the flock. And again, I gesture outside. Now, since we have some newcomers, perhaps now is the best time to begin the baptisms. And I'm going to start heading over to where I normally baptize folks and filling it with jugs of fresh water.
Is he talking, like, do we get the impression that he means, like, the undead as the flock, just to be clear?
I think right then is when that sinks in to with Darren.
Because I was there, I had been wondering, and then Alto was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, they're just talking about other people out there. And then that is like, okay, no, that feels like it maybe tips the scale just a bit. Yeah. Okay, got it.
It's going to take him a minute, but he is uncorking fresh, clean water and pouring it into a big tub.
Just to be clear, Yasmin did not take communion. So would you like expecting her to do so, or do you stop at the original people in the church and not feed Darren and Yasmin and the kids until the baptism happens?
Because Darren stands like with Yasmin, like doesn't move, like sees Yasmin also not moving, and like would, kind of do the like gentle shoulder on gentle touch on the shoulder for the kids to be like, why don't you just stick with us? But yeah, so we definitely would not if that changes the proceedings.
Yep. Yeah, and I would note everyone else probably took the food because this is the only time you would have been given food today. The others have had a chance to eat previously.
The Reverend thinks maybe it's perhaps you need to be baptized first. Then you'll get your hunger.
Great.
Would anyone like to go first?
Okay, hey, Reverend, and Darren, again, Yasmin knows Darren enough to know that he is now just, like, absolutely winging it. Like, puts on a good show. I knew it. Yasmin would know that Darren is just winging it, just trying to, like, yes and until it gets to where he needs to be, kind of bebop and scatting. And he's like, Reverend, again, hey, thank you so much again, and this is to everybody, of course, too, for welcoming us here. We were, this was definitely a place of sanctuary for us, and it's great to hear, it's great to meet so many of you. It's a challenging time. And it seems like there's some things happening where we came from. It was very democratic. We talked through things. There's a quote I like to say is that, leaders think and talk about the solutions. Followers think and talk about the problems. And I think now is maybe a good time to be leaders. All of us, right? Just like Brian Tracy said, I think now maybe, we talk about it, learn what all the rules are, make sure it fits everybody moving forward. And he's like, he is he's mostly obviously talking to the Reverend, but is also kind of like skillfully making eye contact with everybody as much as he can, even just for just a microsecond, as he's just kind of riffing and being like, well, let's slow down and maybe let's talk about this and buy some time and figure out what the fuck is happening here.
I couldn't agree more that we are all leaders, and so that's why we have to be ready. We are warriors for God, and it starts with cleansing yourself. And out of game, I will point out, this is probably the first bit of fresh water you've seen for a while. A shower for some of you in the first couple of days. But yeah, he is insistent that somebody go in. He'll gesture also to Cooper. Cooper, would you be a brave
Carter.
warrior for God? Carter, excuse me.
Cooper's my dog. Who just
excuse me.
Reverend, appreciate what you're doing here, but you have to know that this is an extreme spiritual step for a lot of these people, myself included, and I think we may need some time to prepare mentally for what we're about to go through. You know, could we have like a quiet congregation moment where we can just, sit together, steel ourselves, fortify ourselves, go through, make quiet prayer and contemplation before we then submit to this new commandment? Is that possible?
Yeah, Marty, thank you so much. I really think expressed a really great sentiment, and I don't know, I hope maybe everyone else shares. If not, now is a great time to say so. But Brene Brown says, when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we can feel used and mistreated. And, I think, we're just asking, let's set some boundaries. Let's talk. Let's make sure we're all on the same page here. That's a great idea, Marty. Great idea. Everyone else? Yeah? Sound
100% with Marty. Great comments there, Marty. I think everybody would do well to listen to.
That sounds like Commandment 17, thou shalt pray for forgiveness twice per day. I think it's a great idea. Go ahead and break into prayer groups, and we'll meet together again in a moment. Children, would you like to come pray with me? And I'll reach out to the teens.
Actually.
I think I got it, Father.
Yeah, I know some hymns. I was just gonna, do a little jam sesh with the youths.
Wonderful. I'll pray.
Darren locks eyes with Yasmin and kind of like turns his back a little bit to the Reverend, just kind of like turning to break out into groups, our prayer groups that we're definitely going to be doing. And Darren like locks eyes with Yasmin and kind of like gives just like a quick like eye shift over to one side, and then kind of starts walking the opposite direction in like I think we are close enough on the same page that we should maybe be feeling out others and going from there, and just kind of like starts walking towards some other group of people.
Yep, I'll go to a different group of people. Maybe Nancy, probably, I think.
Yeah, Nancy has her own little prayer group. She's speaking very loudly, very confidently, even though if you kind of listen to what she's saying, like it's clearly not anything from the Bible. She's just kind of riffing and making things up, but it sounds very convincing. And she sees you come up, Yasmin, and gestures for you to sit down before leaning in closer and saying, did they explain what happened here? Do you know?
Yes. Are you all right? Besides, well, have you had thoughts on how to deal with it? If he has a routine, anything that can help us?
I thought a little bit about it. Carrie, would it be appropriate for Nancy to have found a crucifix statue and to have been like sharpening the end of it into a shank just whenever she's kind of got a moment by herself? Hell yeah. Then in that case, I take out of my cardigan and I show you that I have the sharpened crucifix, and I say, Worst case scenario. Worst case. I offer to be the next sacrifice, and I stab him in the throat.
One hopes that it will not come to that.
But you and Darren, right? You have guns.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to use them?
Yes. I do, at least. Darren is fine.
I have been for the last 3 birthdays to a shooting range / barcade. So, I'm not shabby.
Mm-hmm. Almost as good as Yasmin.
And you're willing to kill if you need to?
I would rather not. But to protect the children, I will do what needs to be done if it comes to that. But surely, I don't want to say that everyone can be reasoned with, because that is certainly not true. But perhaps there is a different option. And for the record, as we're doing the talking, I'm keeping an eye out to make sure that Reverend is not coming around to our little prayer group. Just because,
The Reverend has actually kind of walked away, goes upstairs.
Great. But yeah.
So what are the groups? We have Yasmin and Nancy in the same group. Probably the teens, Joy and Parker in the same group. So is it like Darren, Marty, and Doug together?
The power trio.
Fantastic. Let's go ahead and visit. Let's go ahead and visit the teens. As
Teen
you're
squad.
all kind of grouping together, the 3 of them have their eyes locked on the Reverend until finally you kind of grab their attention.
Parker is gonna start strumming. He doesn't actually know any hymns. He was 100% lying about that, so he's just gonna start strumming, and he's gonna say quietly to Joy as he does so, "Can you fill them in? Get them up to speed. They gotta know what's happening."
Yeah. I'll look at the kids, the other teens, and I'll kind of crouch down and start telling them and explaining to them that something happened to the Reverend a day or so ago. He kind of snapped, and he's been whispering and murmuring, and he's been doing all of this weird shit, and I don't know why or what he did, but he he thinks everybody out there is a flock, and then he's gonna save us, he's gonna save the flock. It's a weird thing. I don't know what exactly it is, but he pushed some dude out of a window the other day, and don't trust him, and don't go anywhere with him if he asks you at all. I don't know exactly.
Parker.
So what's the plan then? What do we do?
I look at Parker because I don't know. We haven't been able to do anything.
If things start going down, bullets start flying, whatever, Joy, you got to get them somewhere safe. All 4 of you got to get somewhere safe. Somewhere else in the church. Just find a door, shut it, lock it, barricade it if you can. Don't come out unless. Don't come out until it's over.
What if he rings the bell again?
If he rings the bell again, then either the barricades hold or Parker stops in the middle of that sentence and says, if he rings the bell again, the barricades will hold.
And I think with that, we're gonna cut over to Doug and Marty and Darren.
You're following commandments. We ought to start with "Thou shalt not follow a fucking madman."
Darren immediately is thank God.
Right. Marty's first question is, did Parker fill you in? You know exactly what's going on here?
So Darren is trying so fucking hard to have like an iron spine in this moment. He wants to crinkle back up into a ball very badly, but is you can see is like under a lot of duress, just trying to like have okay body language, and says, yeah, he did. Yeah, we don't just now. So I know that Yasmin and I agree. That is, it's bad. That's bad. So, look, I don't know if I don't know how stable we're feeling, if we want to wait it out. We came here with other people, like we said, and they're supposed to be meeting us here. I mean, as much as we can count on anything right now. But I know that they'd be with us too, but I don't know if that's what we want to be bringing them into either. I'm sorry. But the point is, we know, and we want to do something about it. It can't happen.
Yeah. Well, as I see it, we have two concerns. The first one is making the church safe for everyone here. And then second, formulating a plan to evacuate. And I look at Doug and I'm like, that's where we are, right?
That's a great plan, Marty. I like the way you're going with this. Harry, my first impression, sorry, real quick, Marty. My first impression of Darren was he's a natural leader.
It's true.
Looking at him and as he just described, I feel like he must have crinkled in on himself. Am I seeing any body language or cues that maybe there's a chink in that natural leader armor?
Nathan, I'm going to let you answer that question.
Depending on like how good you are at reading people, Darren is keeping it together. But it's been, you guys obviously have had a rough last, however many hours. And Darren is a person who knows what to say, more or less, when to say it, how to say it, who to say it to, but is a little hollow right now, for sure. He has been confronted with a lot of adversity as of late, and hasn't really had much of a respite from that. So he's tired, I think that's the big thing. It's all resiliency that he may or may not have, especially to these sorts of things, which is not the vibe he puts out. He's not used to this. It may not surprise you to learn. But he has very little right now. He's there, he's for it, he is like present, but is not like, I'm gonna do this by myself kind of levels of energy and confidence and competence.
I got cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say that, Marty is internalizing Doug's pep talk and feeling that maybe someone does need to at least formulate a plan. We felt a little formless, a little blobby here with our just trying to survive. But Marty knows that the first thing you do in any situation is eliminate the active threat. If that's a dog, if that's an angry customer who didn't, who you forgot to deliver their parcel, you gotta lock that down. And obviously the Reverend is that person. Marty doesn't want to kill, but I mean, he's seen that Joy has spray paint. That could easily, if we hit him in the face with that, we could blind him. He could, we could stagger him for a bit and then tie him up. Otherwise, I mean, I think I'm strong enough I could physically subdue him if necessary. But, I mean, if it comes to it, are we willing to cross the line and actually permanently remove him And that's what Marty's feeling out right now, is like, are we ready to take a step?
And is Marty like saying that out loud? Like maybe not that directly, or
Yeah,
maybe that directly.
He's not being direct about it, but he's like, there are certain moral problems that come with, you know, the sort of actions that we're thinking about, and I know, you know, things are bad, and it seems like society is crumbling around us. But like, how much, you know, classic zombie trope, right? We've all seen it. Are we willing to kill? Are we willing to kill him? Marty's wavering, but he's leaning a little more towards yes, now that there are young people that like, they need protecting. We can't let him do what he did again, is my thought.
At this point, Nancy, you watch Yasmin kind of like break away from your group after realizing that the Reverend is no longer down here. The Reverend went upstairs. Yasmin goes over and begins looking around, like the more of the places that the Reverend was kind of standing at, or where the Reverend would be, kind of looking around to see if there's anything, any sort of microphones or recording systems or anything where maybe the Reverend could be hearing these conversations right now. And Yasmin begins looking around, not finding anything, but your search is cut off by the loud tolling of a bell. You hear it echo out through the streets. 1, 2. What is your reaction?
I'm still holding, I still have it strapped to my back, the AK, so I immediately pull it in front of me, pointing down to the ground, and just look around at the folk that have been here a while. Probably Doug and Marty, and Nancy particularly as the adults. And she says, where is the safest place in this church right now?
Do we know if there's like a basement to the church or any
question.
kind of other side room? I mean, there's a closet, but people can't really fit in there long term.
I would say you would know there is a basement. You would also know the door is locked. And you have seen the Reverend's keys.
Doctor, I think the only safe place in this church is together right now.
I don't know.
There's a Is the tolling of the bells, I assume that's loud enough that we now have some manner of cover where we don't have to pretend that we're in like our little groups anymore. We can kind of talk maybe
Correct.
a little bit more.
This is tolling loudly, and then you hear the sounds of the streets waking up as these frenzied and infected snarl and like snap back into existence and begin rushing toward the church, toward the sound of these echoing bells. You begin to hear fists being slammed into the wood, breaking off any pieces of the glass of the windows that are still there. You hear the snarling, you see the hands reaching in and trying to pry away some of the wood. You can hear the smashing against the door itself, but the door is holding. You can hear frenzied. All of the ones that had run away from the car horn coming back.
We're out of time.
Carrie, is it easy to assume that the church has a PA system of some kind used for sermons and stuff?
Yeah.
You hear the Reverend's voice kind of cut in through the PA system, and he says, I have good news, brothers and sisters. Just now I spoke to the Lord, and he promised me. He said that you will all be the last to die when the flock arrive. Isn't that reassuring? And then his voice just cuts out.
Oh, fuck, man.
Yeah, we gotta
hear
deal
the
with
bell.
this.
Gotta do something now. Looking at me.
When he went up the stairs, did he lock the door to the stairs by any chance?
I don't know if
Or-
there is even a lock on the door.
Okay. because Nancy, hearing the snarling, hearing that bullshit over the intercom, will turn to the others and say, "We're out of time. We don't have the benefit of being able to sit around and make a fucking plan. So we need to decide if we're all in. We can't flee. We'll be ripped apart, eaten, something like that. We can go up the stairs."
Darren looks and is again very hollow, especially saying what he's about to say. He says, I'll go up and help stop the bell. Yeah. And then like starts moving a little bit, like slowly and kind of a like, is anyone coming with me, please, please, please kind of vibe, but is like starts moving that direction. Isn't giving any orders to anyone else or suggestions, but Darren's starting to move that way.
Arm yourselves. Grab glass. They've broken the glass. Grab anything that you've got.
Darren throws, if anyone is staying behind or whatever, like Darren is happy to like unload a wrench. Like he has a huge, just like fucking big wrench that he just like throws on the ground for whoever wants to take it.
I think at that moment too, as you're throwing down some weapons and beginning to move towards the staircase, you're realizing the tolling has stopped. And the only sound are the frenzied slamming. You hear the wood being just slammed into with no regard for the blood that is spilling from these creatures' hands. You see fingers break from how hard they are slamming into this wood. And you hear them just piling up at the door.
Well, if we want to get in that basement, the Reverend has the keys, so we got to go up regardless. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Marty is going to grab a wrench, and he's just going to start booking it. I mean, he's not fast, but he's heading up those stairs with purpose.
Are the stairs so narrow that only one person can go at a time? If we have to really...
I imagine they're pretty narrow.
Okay. In the chaos and the hubbub, I do think that Nancy would have the wherewithal to say, "Dr. Gasnin, you've got an AK-47. If you're in the back and you have to shoot, you'll end up mowing down the rest of us. I think you need to go first."
She ponders it a moment and then loads around or whatever, and just steps in front and just starts going up the stairs.
Darren will be right behind her.
It's gonna be okay. Right behind you.
Okay,
Parker's gonna say to Joy and the teens as all of this is happening is gonna say, all right, look, forget everything I said. If you're the only living things down here, when they break through, then doesn't matter where you're hiding, they're gonna find you. So we're all gonna have to go. So you start, all of you, follow after them. Kind of closes his eyes for a second and like takes a deep breath. It's like, I will bring up the rear.
Doug starts to follow and then stop and dashes back to the pew real quick and grabs his box off the pew and then turns to follow.
Nancy looks around at everyone, and if the doctor seems amenable to it, I will put my hand on her shoulder. And even though we're probably about the same age, I say, "It's gonna be okay, baby."
It will. Is the door open? Or unlocked, I should say.
Yeah, you begin heading up the stairs.
I'd like to say that as they head up the stairs, they can hear music. An old church hymn. The lyrics are something about how the Lord's coming for you. And wherever they get up to the top, they'll see that there's just kind of an old boombox that is playing an old CD.
And it is this moment where I will say that the Twitter vote comes into play.
Oh no.
Oh dear.
So upset at Twitter.
So Reverend, you tell me what happens as Yasmin is the first to cross into this doorway.
They enter this room. It looks like maybe like the office, but it's kind of like a train style where there's several rooms kind of leading down, and as the music is playing louder than it probably should, they're sweeping the room and moving through. And at a certain point, Yasmin crosses it looks to be maybe a closet or something. And just as she begins to cross, the Reverend bursts out of the closet, grabs her, puts her in like a headlock, and is aiming her AK-47 at her head. Says, I see God's warriors are testing themselves. Wonderful. Let's head downstairs and see how else we can see ourselves to God's light. What do we say?
You're a fucking madman.
You're out of time, Mr. Michaels.